Welcome to my channel. Support our channel by subscribing. Your subscription helps us grow and create more intriguing content like this. Now let's dive into today's story. Title: Caught my wife cheating with a family friend. She begged for another chance, so I wiped out her years of work instead. Daniel, 38. A self-made architect who founded his own successful design firm, Urban Visions, in Boston. Known for his meticulous nature and sharp attention to detail, Daniel has built a reputation for designing high-profile commercial spaces. Reserved and family-oriented, he poured his energy into both his family and business, trusting that his marriage with Hannah was unbreakable. Hannah, 34. Daniel's wife, a well-known interior decorator with a knack for turning dull spaces into works of art. She owns a boutique design studio, Luxa Spaces, which has grown considerably thanks to her networking skills and charismatic personality. Social and slightly flirtatious, Hannah enjoys the attention her job brings her, and she often collaborates with close friends and clients on her projects. Alex, 39. A longtime family friend and chef with his own restaurant in Boston, the Copper Pot. Often working with Hannah on event planning for her clients, Alex is charming and approachable, making him a popular figure in their social circle. Daniel once trusted Alex as a close friend, frequently inviting him over for family dinners and gatherings. Daniel prided himself on being a reasonable man, never one to jump to conclusions. Over the years, he had built his marriage with Hannah on what he believed to be a solid foundation of trust, mutual respect, and unwavering loyalty. They had weathered their fair share of storms, and he had no reason to believe that anything could ever come between them. But in recent months, something about Hannah's behavior had shifted, and it nagged at him, refusing to be ignored. Her work hours had extended, often running late into the night. While her job as an interior decorator occasionally required long hours, she had never been so secretive about her work. Daniel started noticing other changes, too. Hannah's phone, once left casually on the kitchen counter or on the bedside table, was now always within her reach, its screen turned down and set to silent. She would often step out of the room whenever it buzzed, her laughter filtering in from a distance, leaving Daniel feeling increasingly isolated. The alarm bells grew louder one evening during a dinner party when Daniel saw a familiar name flash on Hannah's phone screen: Alex. Daniel's longtime friend and Hannah's frequent collaborator for events. The message seemed harmless at first, but when Hannah noticed Daniel looking, she quickly turned her phone over, her face a mask of forced nonchalance. Daniel's mind began to churn with unease. He reminded himself not to jump to conclusions. After all, they had been friends with Alex for years, frequently inviting him over for family dinners and social gatherings. But the small changes, the guarded conversations, and her increasingly vague explanations started building up, forming a picture he didn't want to acknowledge. He spent several sleepless nights afterward, his thoughts consumed with the small signs he'd observed, piecing together fragments that only deepened his suspicions. Though he tried to convince himself he was being paranoid, his intuition told him something was wrong. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it continued to grow, casting a shadow over their once happy life. Determined to bring back some closeness, Daniel suggested a weekend getaway. They hadn't taken a trip together in months, and he thought that some quality time away from work and responsibilities might help ease the tension between them. When he proposed the idea, he expected Hannah to be excited, or at least open to the thought of spending a weekend away. But to his disappointment, she hesitated, claiming she had an important event she couldn't miss. Her excuse felt hollow, and her lack of enthusiasm stung more than he expected. A sense of helplessness settled over Daniel as he watched her turn down the idea. He felt as though he was losing grip on something precious, slipping through his fingers despite his efforts to hold on. That night, Daniel lay awake, the realization hitting him that if he didn't confront his suspicions, they would consume him. He knew he needed answers, clear, undeniable proof to either confirm or dispel the doubts that were tearing him apart. The following day, he devised a plan. He told Hannah he had an unexpected business trip out of town and wouldn't be back until the end of the weekend. She barely questioned him, her attention already elsewhere, which only deepened his resolve. He arranged for his team to cover for him, packed a bag to keep up the pretense, and left early, making sure Hannah saw him go. But instead of heading to the airport, he checked into a hotel nearby, setting himself up to observe from a safe distance. The weight of his decision settled heavily on him. He hated the idea of spying on his wife, but he needed answers. He was at a breaking point, driven by the relentless need to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Daniel sat in his car, parked a short distance from the Copper Pot, Alex's restaurant. His heart pounded with a mix of dread and adrenaline, the thought of what he might find making his pulse race. He had been tracking Hannah's location, a decision he wrestled with but ultimately justified in his need for the truth. As he waited, he wondered if he was making a mistake, if he would regret uncovering whatever lay hidden beneath the surface. Yet he couldn't bring himself to leave. Just as doubt crept in, his phone chimed. A notification from the tracking app indicating that Hannah had arrived at the Copper Pot. Taking a deep breath, Daniel entered the restaurant, scanning the dimly lit interior until he saw them. Hannah and Alex sat in a secluded booth, their faces close together, whispering and laughing like two people sharing a private world. The sight made his stomach turn. He felt like an intruder, but the pain of betrayal rooted him in place, unable to look away. From his vantage point, he watched as Alex reached across the table, his hand lingering on Hannah's in a way that was unmistakably intimate. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned closer, her laughter soft and private, the way she used to laugh with him. In that moment, reality crashed over Daniel like a wave, pulling him under. The betrayal was painfully clear. He had hoped, despite his suspicions, that he was wrong, that he was imagining things. But here it was, undeniable and brutal. Every detail of the scene, the closeness, the soft laughter, the lingering touches, confirmed what he had feared. The hurt transformed into a simmering anger, his mind reeling from the shock and betrayal. As he watched them, a sense of numbness overtook him, as if he was watching a movie, detached from the pain. But deep down, the hurt burned, leaving a scar that he knew would never fully heal. The anger and betrayal from the restaurant followed him like a dark cloud as he tracked them to a nearby hotel. Daniel had parked across the street, waiting as Hannah and Alex checked in. He felt like a shadow, silently observing their every move, each action driving the knife deeper. Part of him wanted to storm in, confront them on the spot, and demand answers. But he waited, letting the full weight of the situation sink in, allowing himself to absorb the pain and transform it into a cold resolve. Once he was certain they were alone in the hotel room, he made his move. He entered the hotel, taking the elevator to their floor, and stood in front of their room. He knocked, and when Hannah opened the door, her face went white. Her shock mirrored his own internal turmoil, but he remained outwardly calm, refusing to let her see the depth of his pain. Alex, too, looked horrified, stumbling over his words in a poor attempt at an apology before quickly excusing himself, leaving Daniel and Hannah alone. Hannah's initial shock gave way to tears as she fell to her knees, begging him for forgiveness. She tried to explain, her voice shaking as she insisted it was a momentary lapse, a mistake she regretted deeply. But Daniel felt nothing but a cold emptiness, her words falling on deaf ears. He realized then that there was nothing she could say that would change what he had seen, nothing that could erase the betrayal. Her pleas only strengthened his resolve, igniting a dark desire for retribution. If she had been willing to throw away their life together for a fleeting thrill, then he would make sure she paid the price, right where it would hurt her the most, her career. After that confrontation, Daniel pretended to forgive Hannah, convincing her that he wanted to rebuild their marriage, hoping she would believe him. His act was convincing. He played the role of a supportive husband, giving her comfort and encouragement as she expressed remorse and regret. Inside, though, he was already plotting his revenge, coldly calculating how to dismantle the life she valued most, her career. He knew the time and effort she had invested in Luxa Spaces, the boutique design studio she had nurtured from the ground up. That was where he would strike. With access to her business files and contacts, Daniel started his quiet sabotage. Over the next few weeks, he planted the seeds of chaos, making subtle yet damaging changes. He sent emails under her name to her most loyal clients, subtly offending them with rude responses and careless mistakes. He deleted important client contacts, rescheduled meetings without informing her, and mixed up orders, causing confusion and frustration. Clients started to lose faith in her reliability, and her reputation suffered. As her studio's social media manager, he posted insensitive replies to comments and neglected her brand's presence, letting negative reviews pile up. Hannah, oblivious to his interference, became increasingly stressed, struggling to keep her business afloat amidst the mounting issues. She couldn't understand why her once loyal clients were leaving, why her reputation was deteriorating, or why she was losing control over her business. Every frustrated sigh, every sleepless night she endured only fueled Daniel's resolve. Watching her life unravel, he felt a grim satisfaction, knowing she was facing the consequences of her betrayal. Daniel observed Hannah's descent into despair with a detached satisfaction. She was a shadow of her former self, her once confident demeanor replaced by an anxious, frazzled exterior. He noticed how she paced the living room at odd hours, frantically calling clients to apologize, trying to salvage the remnants of her career. Her energy was consumed by her desperation to fix the damage, but it was like trying to hold water in her hands. The harder she tried, the more everything slipped away. She confided in him about her struggles, tearfully sharing her frustrations and fears of losing everything she had worked for. Daniel, hiding his satisfaction, would listen patiently, offering hollow words of encouragement and advice, knowing they would do little to stem the tide of her downfall. He could see the toll it was taking on her, the bags under her eyes, the way she jumped at every phone call, expecting more bad news. He watched her crumble, knowing he was the architect of her destruction, and he felt vindicated. Each tear she shed felt like justice, a repayment for the trust and love she had so carelessly thrown away. Eventually, the stress and frustration pushed Hannah to question whether someone was deliberately sabotaging her business. Her suspicions grew, and she couldn't shake the feeling that someone close might be responsible. In a final confrontation, she accused Daniel, her voice filled with anger and desperation. Her accusations, however, were met with an icy calm. Daniel didn't deny it. Instead, he revealed the full extent of his revenge, recounting the moment he had caught her with Alex and explaining how he had systematically dismantled her business in retribution. The shock and betrayal on her face mirrored his own emotions from that fateful day. She was left speechless, her expression one of horror as she realized the depth of his betrayal. She begged him to stop, to help her salvage what was left of her business, but Daniel remained unmoved. His love had turned to ashes, and there was nothing left for him to give. He had repaid her betrayal with equal measure, ensuring she felt the same sense of loss and devastation. Hannah's life lay in ruins, her career destroyed, her reputation in tatters. With no hope of salvaging her business, she packed her belongings, leaving the home they had once shared with a heavy heart. Daniel watched her go, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Part of him mourned the love they once had, but he knew that the person he had loved was gone, replaced by a stranger who had shattered his world. His revenge was complete, leaving him with a bittersweet sense of closure. He had exacted his justice, but in the end, he had lost her and the life they had built together. Thank you for watching this intense story of love, betrayal, and retribution. What would you have done in Daniel's place? Do you think he went too far, or was his revenge justified? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. Until next time, thanks for watching. Remember, every action has consequences.